The visitor under the moonlight. The night was quiet in the small village. The sky was dark, but the moon shined bright like silver. The air felt heavy, like something strange was about to happen. Ion was sleeping in his room when he heard a soft, humming sound. At first, he thought it was a dream, but the sound grew louder, and it felt like it was calling him. He opened his eyes and looked at the window. A blue light was moving across the field outside. Curious and a little scared, Ion got up and walked outside. The village was silent, and even the dogs were not barking. Ion followed the blue light, his heart beating fast. The light was near the old banyan tree, where he used to play as a child. As he got closer, he saw a figure standing in the middle of the light. It was a woman, tall, graceful, glowing slightly under the moonlight. Her eyes were big and shining like stars, and her skin had a soft silver glow. But there was something familiar about her face. Ion looked closely and took a step back. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The woman smiled gently and said in a calm voice, "Do you recognize me, human?" Ion couldn't speak. His mouth was open in shock. "I'm your childhood neighbor." She said, "I'm Zaya." The name hit Ion like a storm. Zaya was his best friend when he was a child. They used to play together every evening, but one day, during a strange thunderstorm, she disappeared. No one could find her, and people said her family moved away. But Ion always felt something was wrong. Now, after all these years, she was standing in front of him, not human, but something else. "Zaya," he whispered. How? How is this possible?" She took a step forward and looked into his eyes. "I was taken, Ion," she said. "Taken by those who watch from the stars. They showed me the truth." Ion's mind was spinning. He didn't know whether to run, scream, or cry. The Zaya in front of him was beautiful and calm. But she was different, not like the girl he remembered. Suddenly, a loud sound came from behind the trees. Ion turned around and saw headlights. Military trucks were rolling into the field. Soldiers jumped out, holding strange devices and weapons. Zaya looked at him, her face serious now. "They are not here to help," she said. "You must not trust them." Before Ion could ask more, Zaya touched his forehead. A blue light flashed, and everything around him slowed down. He heard a voice inside his head, not spoken, but felt. "You have been chosen." "Ion," the voice said, "remember who you are." And in the blink of an eye, Zaya was gone. The blue light disappeared, and the humming stopped. The soldiers looked confused, searching the area. One of them saw Ion and shouted, "There! Grab him!" Ion turned and ran as fast as he could. His heart was racing, his legs shaking, but somehow he felt stronger, like something inside him had changed. He ran through the village streets and reached his house. He locked the door and sat down. Breathing hard, his sister came out of her room. Surprised? "What happened?" she asked. "You look like you saw a ghost." Ion looked at his hands. A soft blue light was still glowing on his skin. "I think I did," he said softly. "But not a ghost." She came back. His sister was confused, but Ion didn't. "Say more." He needed time to think. He needed to remember. Who was Zaya now? What did she mean by chosen? And why were the military chasing her? He looked outside the window at the moon. The same moon he and Zaya used to watch together as kids. Now, everything had changed, but one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. Asterisk rain tapped gently on the rooftop as Ion sat quietly in his room. His window was open, and cool wind touched his face. The world outside looked normal, but his mind was far from calm. It had been 2 days since he saw Zaya, the alien girl who claimed to be his childhood neighbor. Every time he closed his eyes, her glowing face appeared in his mind. Her voice echoed in his head. "You have been chosen, but chosen for what?" He didn't know. The blue mark on his hand had faded. But something inside him still felt different. He was more alert, more sensitive to sounds and lights. Even the stars in the sky looked brighter than before. He felt watched, like invisible. Eyes were following him. A knock came at the door. Slow and heavy, his sister opened it, and a man in a black suit stood outside. He held a government ID, but his eyes were cold. "I need to ask Ion a few questions," the man said. "About what?" his sister asked, her voice firm. The man smiled slightly. "Just a routine check, nothing serious." Ion stepped forward. "It's okay," he said, trying to stay calm. The man led him outside and walked slowly beside him. "You were near the field 2 nights ago?" "Yes," he asked. Ion nodded. "I was just walking." The man stopped and looked at him. "Did you see anything strange?" Ion paused, choosing his words carefully. "No, just the moonlight," he said. The man stared at him for a long moment, then handed him a small card. "If you remember something, call this number," he said, and with that, he walked away. Disappearing into a black car, Ion went back inside and closed the door. He looked at the card. No name, just a symbol that looked like an eye. His fingers shook as he placed it in a drawer. That night, a loud thump came from his rooftop. He rushed outside with a flashlight, his heart racing. There was no one there, just silence and cold air. But when he came back to his room, he found a letter on his bed. There was no sign of anyone entering the house. The envelope was old and brown, and inside it was a photo. He held it under the light, and his hands froze. It was a photo of Zaya and Ion as children, standing near the banyan tree. But someone had drawn alien symbols in the corners, symbols that glowed faintly under the light. A voice behind him made him jump. "You kept it all this time." He turned quickly, and there she was, Zaya, standing inside his room like a shadow. No door opened, no sound was made, yet she was there. Ion backed away, confused and afraid. "How did you come inside?" he asked. She smiled. "Doors don't matter anymore. Why are you here again?" He asked. Zaya walked to the window and looked at the stars. "I came to warn you," she said. "They know about you now." Ion stepped closer. "Who are they?" Zaya turned, her eyes serious now. "The ones who took me weren't the only ones watching Earth. There are others, darker, hidden, already among your people." Ion tried to understand. "Why me?" "Because of what you carry inside," she said. "It's not just blood. It's memory, ancient and locked away." He felt dizzy, like the world was spinning too fast. Zaya touched his hand, and for a moment, everything around him vanished. He was standing on a strange planet, with twin suns in the sky. Tall towers rose from the ground, and creatures walked with glowing armor. A strange machine floated nearby, and he felt like he had seen it before. Then he was back in his room, sweating and shaking. Zaya let go of his hand. "You are not ready yet," she said, "but they will come soon, and you must decide who you truly are." Before Ion could speak, she vanished again. Like smoke in the air, this time she left behind something, a small metal cube, cold and silent. When he picked it up, it opened by itself, revealing a symbol, the same glowing eye that was on the government card. Ion understood now. This was not just about the past. This was the beginning of something far bigger. He sat down slowly, holding the cube tightly. Zaya was back, but she was not alone, and neither was he. The nights were not silent anymore. Even when everything was quiet, Ion heard something. A soft whisper, far away, like it came from beyond the sky. It didn't speak in words, but in feelings, warmth, fear, warning. He didn't tell anyone. Not even his sister. The cube Zaya left sat on his table, glowing softly. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Alive but unreadable, sometimes, when he touched it. His mind would drift. He would see stars spinning, planets burning, and a voice calling his name. Ion had stopped sleeping well. Every dream took him to strange places, floating cities, alien skies, and glowing machines. He saw himself walking with Zaya on a glass bridge above the clouds, and in one dream he stood alone in front of a giant door made of light. Behind that door, something waited, something old and powerful. One morning, he woke up to find new symbols drawn on his wall. They were not made by him, but they were the same as those in Zaya's photo. He touched them, and a light flowed through his fingers. The cube clicked open again, and a soft voice filled the room. "Ion," it said, "you are hearing us now." He jumped back, heart pounding. "Who's speaking?" he asked. The cube glowed brighter. "We are the ones your ancestors heard long ago." The voice said, "You carry the memory of a forgotten star." Ion sat down slowly, trying to stay calm. "Why me?" he whispered. "Because Earth is at the edge," the voice said, "the edge of two paths, one that ends in silence, and one that begins in light." Before he could ask more, the cube shut itself. He stared at it, his hands cold. Zaya had said others were already among humans. Was this voice trying to help him or control him? Later that day, Ion walked to the old library. There was a locked basement room no one used anymore. It used to be a war shelter decades ago. He felt pulled toward it, like something inside was calling him. He broke the rusted lock and stepped into the dark. The air was dusty, but quiet, too quiet. In the corner, under a broken shelf, he saw something strange. It looked like a piece of metal buried under stone. He touched it, and the cube in his pocket lit up. The wall beside him moved, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside were machines that didn't look human. Smooth, silver, glowing with soft blue light. In the center was a tall chair made of crystal and metal. Symbols floated around it in the air, changing shapes slowly. He stepped closer, and the voice returned. "This is your seat, Ion," it said. "You were meant to guide, to remember." To protect, Ion sat down without thinking. As soon as he touched the chair, a wave of light rushed through his body. Memories not his own filled his mind, alien skies, battles in orbit, worlds lost to darkness. He saw Zaya again, younger, scared, being taken by a beam of light into a ship. He saw himself as a child, glowing blue as he touched her hand. Then came the last vision, Earth covered in shadows. Creatures walking among people, hiding in plain sight, and a whisper, darker than all the rest, "Find the key, or lose the world." He woke up lying on the floor of the chamber. The machines were quiet now, but the cube was different. It now showed a map, not of Earth, but of the stars. One star was blinking red, and below it, two words appeared. Zaya. Hunted.ayan stood up. Breath shaking, Zaya was in danger, and he had the power to find her. But he wasn't ready, not yet. He had to learn more, find the key, and unlock who he truly was, because the voices from the stars were not just calling, they were warning, and time was running out. Ion woke up crying, but he didn't know why. His pillow was wet, and his heart was beating too fast. The dream he had felt too real. Too deep. He saw a burning sky, people running, and a child standing in the fire. That child looked like him, but it wasn't him. He sat up and stared at his hands. The skin looked normal, but the weight inside them felt heavy, like they had held something powerful, something ancient. The cube beside his bed blinked once, as if it had seen the same dream that morning. He didn't go to school. He walked to the hill behind the village, a place he hadn't visited in years. He used to come here with Zaya, long before she vanished. They had buried a toy spaceship under the big tree. He dug near the roots with his hands, just to see. The soil was soft, and after a few minutes, he found something, but not the toy. It was a small glass sphere, glowing faintly with blue light. As soon as he touched it, his mind went silent. Then he heard a child's voice whisper, "Don't forget us." The ground shook, just a little, like the earth was breathing beneath him. He stood up and looked at the sky. It was blue and quiet. But he felt something behind it, like a curtain hiding the truth. That night, he placed the sphere next to the cube. They connected without sound, and a new symbol appeared. It looked like an eye, surrounded by rings, and inside the eye, a memory unlocked. He wasn't ready for what he saw. Ion's mind was pulled into a vision, faster than thought. He was standing in a great hall, full of stars above and glass under his feet. Creatures walked past him, tall, silver-skinned, and calm. They didn't speak with mouths, but with minds. And then a girl ran toward him, laughing. She looked just like Zaya, but younger. "Ion," she said, "you promised you'd remember." He blinked, and the vision changed. Now he was older, wearing a black uniform with glowing lines. He was standing in front of a mirror. But his reflection wasn't human. It was him, but different. His eyes glowed gold, and symbols moved across his skin like light. The voice returned, calm but strong. "These are not dreams, Ion," it said. "These are memories locked in your blood. You have lived before, in other forms, on other worlds." He fell to the floor, sweating, shaking, trying to breathe. His body was human, but inside, something old was waking up. Something not from Earth. The door suddenly creaked open, and Zaya stepped in. She looked tired, her face pale, but her eyes still shined. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked. Ion nodded slowly. "What is happening to me?" Zaya sat down beside him, silent for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice softer than ever. "You're not just a boy from this village," she said. "You are part of something much older. Your ancestors were chosen by the architects, the first ones, the builders of the gates between stars. They placed their memory in bloodlines, waiting for the right time." Ion looked at her with fear. "And what about you?" Zaya looked away. "I was taken to guide you, protect you. But I also carry memories, memories that are not mine." She opened her hand, and a small flame floated above her palm. "This is not magic," she said. "It's memory." Shaped into light, Ion reached out and touched the flame. Suddenly, he saw himself holding Zaya's hand as children, but around them were not trees. It was a space garden with stars blooming like flowers. And then darkness fell, and a voice said, "They're coming." Zaya pulled her hand away, breathing hard. "They're already on Earth," she said, "hiding in shadows, watching us. They want the cube, the map, and you." Ion stood up, his eyes wide with fear and fire. "I'm not ready," he whispered. Zaya nodded. "But you have to be. The real memories are still locked deeper, and only you can open them." Outside, the wind picked up, blowing dust across the sky, far away in the village. Streetlights flickered without cause. Something had arrived or awakened, and Ion knew the past he never lived was coming for him. The sky was cloudy that evening. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Ion stood on his rooftop, looking at the village below. People walked, talked, laughed, lived their normal lives. But something was wrong. Something unseen had slipped into the world. Zaya's words echoed in his mind. "They're already on Earth, hiding in shadows." She had shown him the memory not just of space, but of Earth's own streets. In that vision, a man smiled at a child, waved at a neighbor, and then blinked with reptilian eyes. Ion started watching people. At the market, he saw a woman drop her bag, and a man helped her. But his movements were too smooth, too exact. At the tea shop, he noticed a man who never blinked. And at night, near the temple, a figure stood too still, like a statue waiting for permission to breathe. He told his sister, but she laughed. "You're being paranoid," she said. But he wasn't sure anymore. Even his own reflection sometimes looked back at him with different eyes. The cube had changed again. It now showed pulses of red light. Like radar, dots blinked on the screen, each one moving slowly across a map of the village. Some of them were green, normal, but 2 were red, pulsing, coming closer. That night, Zaya didn't visit, but a letter slid under his door. No name, no words, just one thing, a photo of him standing in his room. Taken from outside his window, he looked out but saw no one. The watchers were not coming. They were already here. A knock came at the door. This time, it wasn't a stranger. It was his old school teacher, Mr. Fahim. He hadn't seen him in months. Mr. Fahim smiled warmly. Too warmly, Ion. "We missed you at the community center." He said, "We're starting something new." A science club. Ion nodded politely, but something felt wrong. The man's voice was perfect. But his eyes didn't move. They stared too directly, like reading lines from a script. After he left, Ion checked the map again. Mr. Fahim's location was red, pulsing later that night. Ion crept out of his house. He followed the red signal. To an abandoned well behind the village, the cube grew warmer as he got closer. And then he saw it. A panel in the ground, made of metal, blinking softly. He pressed his hand on it, and it opened silently, revealing a staircase going deep underground. He hesitated, then stepped inside. The air was cold, and the walls glowed with faint symbols. He reached a large room filled with strange equipment. Screens and capsules. Inside one of the capsules, someone was floating. Asleep or unconscious, it was Mr. Fahim. But the man who had visited him earlier wasn't him. It was a copy, a mimic, something wearing his face, walking his steps, speaking his words. Ion's breath caught in his throat. "They're replacing people," he whispered, one by one. Suddenly, the cube shut off. The light in the room changed, now red, now warning. A robotic voice said, "Unauthorized entry." He turned to run, but the door was already closing. A shape moved in the shadows, tall and thin. With shifting skin, it looked at him with glowing blue eyes and said, "You were not supposed to find this before it." Could step closer. A flash of light filled the room. Zaya appeared, holding a blade of pure energy. "Run!" she shouted. Ion didn't think he obeyed. They escaped through a hidden tunnel that led to the old riverbank as they caught their breath. Ion turned to her. "They're copying us," he said. Zaya nodded. "Yes, and no one even knows. They've been watching for years," she said, "but now they're moving. They want the key. And they want you because you are the only one who can unlock it." Ion clenched his fists. "I'm tired of running," he said. "I want to fight." Zaya looked at him, and for the first time, she smiled with pride. "Then we begin tomorrow," she said. "But remember, not all humans are human anymore." Asterisk rain poured over the village like the sky was weeping. Thunder rumbled far away. But the real storm was already here. Ion stood at the edge of the river, soaked to the bone. Zaya stood beside him, silent, her eyes fixed on the dark horizon behind them. The world was changing. People were disappearing quietly. Teachers, shopkeepers, neighbors, and in their place came others with perfect faces and dead eyes, smiling too much, blinking too little. Ion couldn't pretend anymore. He had seen too much, remembered too much. The dreams weren't dreams. They were pieces of another life. A life written in his blood. He was human, but not fully. And now, he had to choose which half to listen to. Zaya handed him a piece of alien metal, smooth and glowing. "This is a key," she said. "It activates an ancient weapon, not of war, but of truth." Ion looked at it, confused. "What does it do?" he asked. She paused, then answered, "It reveals the real from the false, if used." The key would expose every hidden enemy walking in human skin, but it would also reveal Ion, his DNA. his power, his connection to the architects. There would be no hiding after that, no turning back. As they returned to the secret chamber under the hill, the cube floated beside them. It now pulsed with light faster than ever. The timeline is breaking, Zaya said. They're accelerating. Inside the chamber, the ancient machine waited, silent and cold. Ion stepped forward and placed the key into the central slot. The machine roared to life, lights spinning, symbols flying through the air. Suddenly, the chamber changed. They were no longer underground. They were standing in the memory of a dead world. A planet turned to ash, skies filled with burning metal. Zaya fell to her knees, tears in her eyes. "This was my true home," she said softly, "destroyed by the same kind hiding on Earth now." Ion looked around, heart heavy. He saw children turn to stone, towers melted into glass. He clenched his fists. "I won't let this happen again," he said. The memory faded, and they were back in the chamber. But something had changed. Ion's hands were glowing, not just blue, but golden. He could feel the machine responding to his thoughts, his will, once you activate it. "Everything changes," Zaya warned. "Your normal life will end." Ion looked at her, calm and ready. "That life ended the night you came back." Suddenly, alarms echoed through the chamber. The Watchers had found them. Above ground, black ships flew through the clouds, silent and fast. On the village streets, people screamed as the skies lit up. Zaya handed him a device, shaped like a ring. "This will protect your mind," she said, "but only if your heart is clear." Ion nodded. Slipping it on, he walked to the machine. Heart steady. The last screen lit up with 2 words: "Activate key." He placed his hand on the panel. His memories rushed into the machine like light through water. Visions, feelings, ancient knowledge, all of it fed the core. He closed his eyes and pressed down. The chamber exploded with light. A wave of energy rushed across the land, invisible but unstoppable. One by one, across cities and villages, the hidden ones were revealed. Their forms flickered. Some screamed and ran. Others attacked in blind rage. The world was no longer blind. The masks were falling, but with the light came pain. Ion collapsed, fire running through his veins. Zaya caught him as he fell. "Your body is changing," she whispered. "You've crossed the line." He opened his eyes, and they were no longer brown. They were starlit gold. He could hear voices again. But now, they weren't distant. They were clear, calling him by his true name. Zaya leaned close and whispered, "There's one more gate to open." Ion nodded, weak but focused. "Then let's open it." The stars were falling, not in pieces, but in signals, across the sky. Beams of light moved like threads being pulled back into a forgotten pattern. The earth had changed overnight. Cities were waking up to fear, confusion, and truth. News channels showed faces that glitched and shimmered. People who were not people, exposed under the golden wave. Some of them vanished. Others fought back, but most simply watched like they knew this day was coming. Ion stood at the top of the mountain. The cube floated beside him, glowing softly. Zaya was with him, silent, her eyes full of starlight and worry. The final gate was hidden under the old ruins in the desert, a place erased from maps. Only the machine inside Ion's mind could find it. He didn't walk now. He moved with energy under his feet. He wasn't fully human anymore, but not alien either. He was something in between, something new as they reached the ruins. The wind began to whisper in an ancient tongue. Zaya placed her hand on a stone wall, and it faded like dust beneath it. A glowing staircase spiraled downward. The gate wasn't a door. It was a choice. A doorway of pure light, pulsing like a heartbeat, floating in the middle of a black chamber shaped like the inside of a star. Behind them, the sky shook, dark ships arriving in swarms. The last wave of the Watchers had come. They moved like insects. But thought like gods, Zaya turned to Ion. Her voice calm but sharp. If they reach us before the gate opens, Earth is lost. Ion closed his eyes inside him. Every voice from the past returned. Ancestors he never met. Memories from lives he never lived. He heard a child laugh. Ah. Soldier scream. A mother sang. All of them speaking through him. You are the bridge, they whispered. Not to escape, but to awaken. Ion stepped into the light. His body lit up with golden fire. The symbols on his skin spinning faster than ever. The cube melted into his chest, and time slowed across the world. Children looked to the sky and stopped crying. Animals raised their heads, sensing something ancient stirring. Even the Watchers, for a moment, paused. Because something greater than them had just awakened, Ion saw everything. The network of stars. The ancient gates between worlds. The truth. Humanity had never been alone. They were seated, watched, guided, but always given a choice, and now that choice was his. He looked back at Zaya. She smiled, a tear running down her cheek. You know what to do, she whispered. Ion raised his hand, and the gate responded. A wave of light burst outward, faster than sound, faster than thought. It didn't destroy, it revealed across Earth. Hidden Watchers screamed and burned away, their shadows torn from the light. But humans, the real ones, stood tall, unchanged but awakened. The gate closed behind him, the chamber faded. And Zaya stood alone on the mountain, but she wasn't. Crying, she could feel him everywhere in the stars. In the wind, in the pulse of the earth, Ion had become something more. Not a weapon, not a god, a guardian, born from two worlds, and as long as the stars burned, he would remain, watching, guiding, waiting, because the truth had always been this: we were never alone. We were just never ready until now.